Greetings, viewer. Today I'm still in Germany, where I came to attend the IAA Mobility 2021, the German motor show, which was held in Munich. And now I'm on the outskirts of Munich, where I'm going to try out one of the small Euro EVs that I hadn't had a chance to try, the Opel Mokka E. So what is the Mokka E? Well, it's Opel's smaller crossover. I don't think it's its smallest crossover, but it's the smallest one that you can get as an electric vehicle. But even though it looks quite unique, I would say, its underpinnings are actually very, very common, as they are the same that you get in the Peugeot E2008, the E208, the Corsa E, which is this car's lower brother. It's basically the same car, only this one is on stilts. And the new Citroen C4, or in this case the EC4. So as a result, its powertrain and battery pack combination are predictable. It has a 100 kilowatt motor under the hood here. It has a 50 kilowatt hour battery somewhere around here, whose usable capacity is 45 kilowatt hours. And Opel says that it should provide a range, a claimed WLTP range, of around 322 kilometers. And to be fair, I don't think they're off by much, because when this car was fully charged, it was showing a maximum theoretical range of 301. So that's pretty good, right? But once I climbed aboard and into the driver's seat and I set the car in sport mode and never took it out of sport mode, that quickly dropped to around 180 in like a few kilometers. But a realistic, real-world range estimate for somebody who's going to drive it sensibly is probably around 250 kilometers, I would say. But even in sport mode, this vehicle isn't particularly quick. It sprints to 100 kilometers per hour in around 8 seconds. And it tops out at 150 kilometers per hour. So you're not going to be breaking any records with it. It does have this very bold front end. So this car has been driven to Austria and back and hasn't been washed. There's a clean one right next to it, behind me now. And I'll take some B-roll of that. That's clean. But I think it's quite a striking looking thing. I like this leading edge here. As you can see, it protrudes outward. And this nice pattern. It looks very modern and digital, I would say. The grille is completely closed off, as you would imagine in an electric vehicle, although there is this large slat here, you could call it, that does let air in. And this vent here is also real. I also like the daytime running lights. I think they are super cool, sehr cool. I like them a lot. They're very nice. They're probably my favorite thing about this car's design. Although now the new Astra from Opel, which is related to the Peugeot 308, but that's another story. It also has this light signature, and it's very nice. So you can tell that this is the Mokka E, the electric one, by the fact that it has E's here on the B pillars and on the back somewhere here. Very discreet. So this is the Mokka E. You can also get the Mokka with a 1.2 liter engine or a 1.5 liter diesel, but frankly, I think this EV is the one to go for. You're not going to travel more than 200 kilometers in it. And besides, Kyle from Autospec, who was nice enough to allow me to drive this car, even though it's his loaner, he drove it to Austria and back, and he found it a very competent long-distance companion. Let's check out the interior. So so this car has keyless entry. It's kind of mostly a fully spec'd vehicle, as are vehicles in the press fleet usually. And while it does unlock when you approach the passenger side, you can't lock it. There's no thing here. I'll show you on the other side. So inside, it looks kind of boring, to be honest. And the materials, rock hard. Although they have tried with this contrasting stitching suede thing here. This is not very soft and not very comfortable for your elbow. This is the sign of a cheap car, I would say. You have here the typical Peugeot door handle that's been in use for I think over 10 years now. This car's interior is a mishmash of Opel and Peugeot bits. Because you know Opel was bought by PSA and everything is now called Stellantis. I've told the story before and I'm sure you know it. Okay, so as I was saying, on the passenger side, you can only lock the keyless car, the keyless Mokka, from this side. So you just run your finger there and it locks. The fact that it only has it on one door is the mark of a cheap car, I would add. Like premium cars have them on all four doors. And even slightly below premium vehicles still have them at least on both front doors. So why won't it unlock now? This is a good segue to show you the key, which is your bog standard. Come on, focus on the key. It's your bog standard, very familiar Opel key. Boring as hell. Yeah. Okay, before we go inside the car any further, I'm going to show you under the hood. Let me just unlock it. So since this is a front-engined or front-motored vehicle, there's no storage under here. But at least it has shocks, so you don't have to prop it up. That's a good mark for what is otherwise a very cheap-feeling vehicle. And it's not a cheap vehicle. This particular one is 40-ish thousand euros. I don't have the spec sheet, but it starts at 32, 33. The electric one, I mean, this one. But at least you do get the struts, as I was saying. I also like the contrasting roof and the mirrors. I think they add something. And I also like the rims. They're not amazing, but they work with this design very, very well. Storage in the trunk or in the boot isn't this car's forte. Firstly, because it's hard to access it and it's annoying because you would think that the button is in here. That would be okay, you know, but it's actually here next to the reversing camera, and there's like the button here and it pops, and then you open it to reveal a modest 310-liter trunk that's full of junk. There's even a dead cat in here. I'll just get rid of this. So do you think it has an electric closing mechanism? Of course it doesn't. Not that I mind. There's the other Mokka I wanted to shoot B-roll of rolling away. Bye, other Mokka. So I'm gonna shoot B-roll on this dirty one. It's not that dirty, but it was a bug kill fest here on this blunt front end. A lot of insects met their demise here, so yeah. Okay, let's go inside. So space in the back is not very good. I barely fit behind myself. I'm not gonna do the test now. Just gonna give you a quick overview of the dashboard. On this platform, I'd much rather spend a little bit more and buy the DS3 crossback that I'm still editing the review of, even though I shot it like 3 months ago, so sorry. But I like that much more than I do the Mokka. Oh, and speaking of the DS, what's amusing is that this Mokka is built in the same factory in France as the DS. And all the other cars that are built on the same platform, at least as far as I'm aware. Okay, so from the driver's seat, the steering wheel feels kind of okay, although I noticed, come on, just focus. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but the finish on the steering wheel, come on, just focus, is bumpy. You know, it has these dimples things all across. See? It's not smooth. If you run your finger across it, you feel the bumps. But at least it has a flat bottom, right? So you feel sporty. So as I was saying, this vehicle is a mishmash of some Opel and PSA switchgear. So as I pointed out, this door handle is a PSA part, but I don't recognize this from a Peugeot. I'm more familiar with Peugeots than I am with Opels, but I don't recognize this. So this is for the windows and the mirrors. You pull back on this to fold the mirrors. Then you pull back on it again to fold them back out. And then you move it to the left and to the right and then control the mirrors obviously with that. The gauge cluster is a 12.3-inch screen. I think it's bigger than the one in the DS3, even though I still prefer the DS3. But the DS has a much better navigation system. I don't understand why there isn't a home button. The only button I want to press on this infotainment is this one. So you have shortcuts, I guess, but you don't have a main menu thing to resort to. There's no home button. And last night when I was playing with the infotainment, I set it to French and then to German, and I wasn't able to set it back to English. And I'm not even sure how I did it, but I did. Oh yeah, so before we take it for a drive, let me finish the Switchgear Tour. So this is very clearly Opel, or as Kyle pointed out, Kyle from Out of Spec, it's from the Chevy Bolt, and it is from the Chevy Bolt. But at the same time, oh, so these buttons are also GM, but this is all PSA. This is all Peugeot Citroën. This odd selector that I'm not a fan of. And this button, you will find them in other models that are built on the same platform. Sorry about my coffee there. And this electric parking brake release button is also sourced from Peugeot. I think we can take this beast for a drive now. So I actually got to drive this vehicle quite extensively. I put about 150 kilometers on it in one day just to see what it's like. I drove it on the Autobahn flat out as much as I could. And right now I have 66% in the battery with an indicated range of 142 kilometers. So that's adequate for 66%. It's good. So I drove this on the Autobahn, on country roads, and in town. And it fares very well. Although, to be fair, I jumped out of a Volkswagen ID3 into this, and that is so much better. Honestly, that's my honest opinion. Okay, so enough talk. Let's just take it for a drive and see what it's like. So, for the context, I jumped out of as I previously said, I jumped out of an ID3 and into this. And not so long ago, I drove the DS3, which is identical mechanically, but it looks completely different. And it also drives slightly differently, but not by a huge margin. Put it in drive. It's still in sport from earlier. And away we go. So if you were to blindfold me, I don't think I would be able to tell, unless I started touching the interior, that this is any different to the DS. The suspension is pretty floaty, let's put it that way, and there's a lot of roll through the corners, and because the rear suspension setup is not independent, you get a lot of jitteriness at the back over some types of bumps. With that being said, don't get me wrong, this is not a bad car. It's just not interesting for an enthusiast. It's perfectly pleasant to drive. It actually accelerates really fairly strongly all the way to its top speed. I didn't notice a dip in acceleration as speed builds. Maybe if it had a higher top speed, the wind would start to have an effect, or air resistance rather, would have more of an effect. But at 150k, it sits comfortably, and I think it's a good highway companion for shorter trips. You can't really do cross-country trips in this, because this car only charges at 100 kilowatts maximum capacity, and it will take you like half an hour from 10 to 80%, or if you use the 7.4 kilowatt onboard charger, it will be quite a bit slower. This is not a vehicle that will be bought by people who want to go on cross-country road trips, to be honest. But after driving it and experiencing the 2008 and the Peugeot 208, this would be the last car on my list of vehicles based on the EMP1 platform, or whatever it's called, the EV version of the EMP1 platform from PSA. They're all competent and decent cars, but the Mokka is the one that speaks to me the least. Let's just put it like that. I'm curious to drive the Citroen EC4, which is a bigger car with a bigger footprint, I guess. I'll see what that is like. Hopefully I'll be able to get one to review it. So yeah, this sums up my Mokka E review. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.